It's a Friday evening in July in central Alberta. Music drifting across a campground. Children on bicycles. Barbecues smoking. Hundreds of people at the edge of a lake, laughing, eating, doing nothing in particular. The kind of evening Canadians wait all year for. Then the rain started. Nothing unusual. Summer rain. Nobody moved inside.
Stand by for a sister that's hit down in Pine Lake. We've got 30 to 40 trailers upside down. Everybody is on route, ambulance, fire, police.
Tornado has touched down near Pine Lake, Alberta. It has left at least 8 people dead and injured up to 160 others, many seriously.
In under 3 minutes, the Green Acres Campground had ceased to exist.
You can only hope that you only see once in a lifetime. It's like ground zero, as one person termed it earlier in the evening. An awful lot of debris. It's as though a steamroller had actually gone through and flattened everything.
Because this tornado never showed itself. No funnel, no warning, no time to run. Just a wall of rain, hiding 300-kilometer-per-hour winds inside it, moving straight toward a packed campground. Nobody saw it coming, and the ones who survived couldn't explain how. This is the deadliest F3 tornado in Canadian history.
As the afternoon drew to a close, the group settled down in their RV. They had no idea of what was about to hit them.
It was a summer evening. Everyone is on vacation. Children were playing and riding bicycles between RVs right next to the lake. Everyone outside. Music playing all around. At the Green Acres Campground, packed for a country music jamboree, hundreds of people had gathered at the edge of the lake. Among them, Jamie and Katrina Holtum, with their 2 children, their 2-year-old son Lucas, and their 5-week-old daughter. They had no idea what was coming. Nobody did. Yes, there were storms in central Alberta that afternoon, but summer storms were normal. Most people barely looked up. The clouds rolled in. Rain started falling. Some campers moved inside their trailers. Others kept talking outside. Then the wind changed. Not gradually, instantly, like somebody had flipped a switch. At 5:37 in the afternoon, Environment Canada had issued a severe thunderstorm watch for the Red Deer area. Not a tornado warning, a thunderstorm watch. To most people at Green Acres, that meant nothing unusual. A watch says conditions exist. It doesn't say run. What nobody at the campground could know was that the storm bearing down on Pine Lake was not a normal storm.
That day at Pine Lake, it was so hot. I can remember being just stifling, like to breathe in the air, it was warm. Very muggy, I don't know how to explain it. It was just a different air.
The air that evening felt different, heavy, tropical, the kind of heat that presses down on you and doesn't let go. That moisture was fuel. The storm had formed on the eastern slopes of the Rockies and moved rapidly eastward, swallowing a narrow band of low-level moisture as it went. Within minutes, it had gone from a severe thunderstorm to an F3 tornado with winds approaching 300 kilometers per hour, and it had hidden itself inside its own rainfall, completely invisible to the naked eye. No funnel, no warning, just rain, and hidden inside that rain, a kilometer-wide tornado moving east at 60 kilometers per hour.
It's sitting in a bit of a hill, a bowl, if you will, and it can't see the western horizon very well at all. And it turned out this storm approached right from the west. It would have developed within minutes from something that is just a severe thunderstorm to an F3 tornado. And it hit Pine Lake right around 7 p.m.
There was one more problem. Pine Lake sat almost exactly halfway between the only 2 radar stations in Alberta, one in Vulcan, one in Carvel. Due to the curvature of the Earth, Neither could detect a low-level circulation buried inside heavy precipitation at that distance. The tornado was invisible to the eye and invisible to the radar. The only warning it would give was sound. A roar, low at first, then everywhere at once. The kind of sound that doesn't come from weather. It comes from something alive. And by the time anyone at Green Acres heard it, it was already inside the campground.
I remember the clouds were terrible. You couldn't believe how they looked. I never seen colors like that. And it was so quiet. There wasn't a dog barking. There was no kids screaming or hollering.
That silence lasted seconds. Then Green Acres ceased to exist.
By the time it reaches the campground, it has doubled in size, with winds of 300 kilometers an hour. The howling monster crests the hill and heads down toward the beach, hurling cars and trailers into the air.
RVs were thrown like empty cans. Trees snapped at the base. The lake swallowed boats, cars, and people whole. 11-year-old Taylor Aronovich was in a trailer with her parents and brother. The windows imploded. Her mother was sucked out through the opening. In the chaos, a single image burned into Taylor's memory. Her little orange tabby cat sliding from one end of the trailer to the other, weightless, as the floor tilted beneath her. Then she was outside, pinned under a tree stump, soaking wet, covered in blood, going into shock. "I was just trying to search for family," she said. Jim Lebedeff, a retired Calgary police officer, was under the bunk beds with his wife and 2 young kids when the trailer lifted. A glass cutting board severed an artery in his hand. He didn't stop. When the roar ended, he and 2 other off-duty officers pulled survivors from twisted metal. 4 months old and strapped into her car seat, Ashley Thompson was ripped through the window of a flipping car. Her father watched her bare feet disappear into the darkness. The car rolled down the hill. The car seat hung empty, clips still fastened. Ashley was found on a golf driving range several hundred meters away, completely naked, a small cut on her left foot, alive.
And the building that she was in started hurtling the car through the air.
The tornado destroyed approximately 400 campsites. And somewhere inside the wreckage of the cabin that had been ripped to shreds, Jamie and Katrina Holtum were searching for their 2-year-old son, Lucas.
I remember them kids running and looked out, and the front wheels on the motorhome lifted up and flipped upside down right there. And we were right behind it, eh? There was just like trailers everywhere upside down and pieces and cars upside down, and unbelievable.
Then the roar stopped. The wind dropped. The rain thinned, and what replaced it was silence.
Hundreds were injured, and 11 people were dead.
In the first minutes after the tornado passed, nobody knew how many people were missing. The campground was unrecognizable. Where 400 campsites had been, twisted metal, shattered glass, personal belongings scattered across the mud, and scattered among all of it, people. Rescue teams pulled survivors from beneath collapsed trailers. Some just stood in the wreckage, calling out names.
RVs, trailers, and cars had been hurled into the lake. Divers were called in to recover the wreckage. Within a day, they were clearing up the debris. Among the rescuers was Mountie Dan Doyle.
Emergency crews worked through the night. Helicopters were called in. Hospitals across central Alberta went on emergency alert. Divers scoured the lake for days. By morning, 12 people were confirmed dead.
A tornado has touched down 17 kilometers south of Red Deer at the Green Acres Campground at Pine Lake.
There's people trapped. There's fatalities, there's people hurt.
Lucas Holtom was 2 years old. His 5-week-old sister survived.
We're all just sick.
A little baby that was passed to us into our car to give him protection. The little boy died, though.
For the ones who walked away, walking away didn't mean they were okay. It just meant they were alive. In the days that followed, a question started forming. A quiet, uncomfortable question. Could this have been prevented? Not the tornado. Nobody controls the atmosphere. But the warning, the time between knowing and telling. At 5:37 that afternoon, Environment Canada had issued a severe thunderstorm watch. At 6:18, it was upgraded to a severe thunderstorm warning. Not a tornado warning, a severe thunderstorm warning. There is a critical difference. A thunderstorm warning says severe weather is imminent. A tornado warning says take cover now. That second alert, the one that might have sent families inside, might have prompted campground staff to evacuate, never came. Because Pine Lake fell through a gap nobody had closed.
Alberta warning system was fairly new, and they actually had 2 big areas where they would issue warnings. Pine Lake was not part of those areas, so there was no, that system was not activated because Pine Lake was in between those 2 areas.
On duty at the Prairie Storm Prediction Center that evening was meteorologist Pat McCarthy, receiving phone calls from an off-duty colleague on a family trip near Caroline, close enough to watch the storm develop with his own eyes. He was giving me first-hand reports all through that day. McCarthy said, the whole organization realized there was lots of value getting data from the ground. They were opening the phone book, calling locals, piecing together what the radar couldn't show them. It wasn't enough. The first report of a tornado at Pine Lake didn't come from any radar. It didn't come from any meteorologist. It came from an RCMP officer on the ground at 7:05 p.m. The tornado warning was issued at 7:10. The tornado had already lifted, and here is the detail that makes it worse. The first ambulance to arrive on scene, before any official confirmation had gone out, stopped in the wreckage, got on the radio, and said 4 words. We need way more ambulances. Then went down and started working. In the years that followed, Environment Canada built new radar stations across Alberta. The gap that Pine Lake fell through no longer exists. But that doesn't bring back the 12.
We are, as a family, still very much watch the skies over Alberta. They're never the same now as they were before. I mean, we've lived here our whole lives, and we're never really afraid of storms till that happened, and weren't at all expecting it.
In 2020, survivors returned to Pine Lake, some for the first time since that evening in July. They stood at the edge of what is now a rebuilt, quiet campground and said almost nothing, because there are no words that fully cover it. Not the roar that came from inside the rain, not the 3 minutes that followed, not the fear that stayed with families for decades every time dark clouds rolled over Alberta. There is a memorial at the site now. 12 names: Clifford Stegman, Merrill Booth, Charles Bouton, Lisa Gorley, Thomas Ian Pryor, Margaret Proven, Kenneth Prudhomme, Irving Simmons, Margot Warner, Oren Wangsness, Doris Broberg, and Lucas Holtom, 2 years old. 12 people who drove out to a lake on a Friday evening in July. The golden, easy way Canadians spend summers, and never came home. Not because the storm was too powerful, not because anyone made a wrong decision, but because the tornado was invisible.